Get it? I have no right to say how you dress, communicate, or act on your own time. However, while you're at work, I'm entitled to you being a professional and acting and speaking like one.
Showing up dressed and groomed in a way that best represents this organization.
And the image that we need to project to our clients and to the world.
I'm entitled to you doing the work. You are paid to do to the very best of your ability.
And then some.
The only way this business is going to grow and provide opportunities for you to grow with it is if you're continually looking for ways to excel,
Achieve,
Solve problems.
and add value whenever and wherever you can. I'm entitled to your respect for my rules, whether or not you agree with them.
I want you to enjoy working here and like your manager.
Keep clicking out of that,
The
don't you?
condition of your willingness to follow company policy.
I am entitled to the truth.
And yes, I can handle the truth.
So if you're not ill, please don't call in sick.
If you handle money or merchandise that is sent, whether accounted for,
If you lie, cheat, steal, fudge,
or hook a buddy up, even once.
The trust I need to have in you will forever be in question.
but it's my customers who are even more entitled.
They're the ones and are wages and keep this business running.
That entitles them to fast, friendly, and courteous service.
From everyone in this organization.
So you need to go out of your way to show them how much we appreciate their business.
So if you agree to this list of entitlements, then you're not only entitled to a paycheck,
You're entitled to me living up to these same high standards.
But hey, if you feel like we're asking for too much,
and you're entitled to look for another employer that will not ask these things of you.
The odds of you finding one aren't good.
So at this point, I ask employers, what are you doing to help close that gap? Most of the time, there is no response. Here is a quote that I think really best describes one of the main issues that we're dealing with right now in our labor force, and that is the more we push our students into the traditional education field where many don't excel, all we're ending up doing is worsening the problem. And so it's now time for us to take a look at what we can do to change that. So I do want to take you on a little bit of a journey to explain to you a little bit about Apprenticeship Idaho. Last year, about this time, the U.S. Department of Labor contacted Idaho and said, are you guys interested in developing registered apprenticeships beyond what you've traditionally used? And we said, well, yeah, we're interested in taking a look at it. And they said, well, there are some conditions attached. We'll provide you an advisor to work with you hand in hand and show you some of the things that are going on in other states and see what you can do to develop that a little bit better for the state of Idaho. But you have to submit a plan to us in how you would utilize this help in accelerating the use of apprenticeships in Idaho. So we worked with our advisor for 6 months, and in July we had submitted a plan to the U.S. Department of Labor, and as a result, we ended up getting $200,000 to move forward with that plan. Well, many of you know $200,000 isn't going to go too far, but we thought, well, we can do something with it. And so we put together a team, and that team consists of Career Technical Education, the Idaho Hospital Association, the Idaho Technology Council, Tech Help, P-Tech, and then many others throughout the state. Our director decided he would invest staff time into helping us build these registered apprenticeships and doing the outreach to the employers, because that's what we're already doing. In the meantime, while getting that started, we had also submitted for a $1.9 million grant. In November, we were awarded 1.4 of that $1.9 million. Most of that money is going out to our workforce centers throughout the state, so the likes of NIC, ISU, LCSC, CWI, CSI, and in Eastern Idaho Technical College. In addition, we decided we would give Idaho Technology Council, Tech Help, and IHA a portion of that money as well, because why should I go out there and try to reach out to their members? They're the ones who have that direct contact. Let them do the work for us. Why should I have to do it? So they agreed, they come on board, and we gave them each $100,000 to really implement the plan that we had set in place. As you can see on your screen, we did establish a vision, and that is to create apprenticeships for Idaho businesses who have a desire for a skilled workforce. The apprenticeship model itself is really an earn and learn model, so the apprentice is actually learning as they are being taught in the classroom and on the job. So it is a combination. It's not one or the other, and I'll show you how it all comes together here in just a few minutes. We also set forth some goals. The number one goal we heard from employers is, it's another government-run program. It's too daunting. I don't have time for the paperwork. So the Idaho Department of Labor has dedicated its regional business specialists to helping with that paperwork process. Quite honestly, it's a one-page document. They fill out an application. They sit down, maybe review a set of standards, say, yes, I agree with that. No, I don't agree with this. We come to some common ground and then move forward. The next thing that we felt was very important was the connection between business and education. In our exploratory phase, we found out that business was saying education isn't meeting my need. Education saying, well, business isn't telling me what they need, so how am I able to meet that need? I'll give you a recent example. We were approached by St. Luke's a couple of weeks ago. St. Luke says we have an immediate need for 60 medical assistants. CWI isn't meeting the needs that we have. How can we expedite this process? Because I'm having to always wait on this new class schedule to start. I need these to start all the time when I need them. And so we found an online option for them. So instead of paying $10,000 for an MA class, we can have an individual start tomorrow and only pay $800. St. Luke's has control over the online program. They can track the student's progress. They can help mentor the person as they go through, and they can start tomorrow. They can start next week. They can start next month if they want to. So we're going to run a pilot with St. Luke's, starting actually our recruiting process is starting this Saturday. We're taking a different approach on our recruiting as well. We're running it outside our normal business hours. We're going to run it to where a person can log on to the phone. They can get a real quick orientation as to what this program entails, what St. Luke's is looking for, and then what their next steps are, and then they'll be instructed on what to do from there. Another thing that we also found out was better awareness between the job seekers and employers. Job seekers are out there, they're underemployed, majority of them are anyway, and they're looking for better opportunities, but they don't know what opportunities are out there because the employer's looking for this highly skilled person with all the experience in the world. And really, when you talk to the employer, they're saying, oh, well, I'm willing to train anybody. And so it's kind of a mixed message coming from both sides. So we're trying to close that gap on the job seeker and business community as well. Our last goal, but probably the most important goal, is to increase the use of apprenticeships by 20% by year's end. We think it's a very achievable goal. Right now, we have no other place to go but up because the use of apprenticeships in Idaho is very underutilized in comparison to our surrounding states. So we feel we have a great opportunity to really help business and help the citizens of Idaho. These are the required elements of an apprenticeship. As you can see, we have to have business involvement. Without business involvement, we don't have a registered apprenticeship. They are the forefront of the start in getting everything set up. An apprenticeship has to be structured on the job training, so there is a set of standards that is set by industry that employers have to follow. They have a little bit of flexibility in helping set that standard, but for the most part, industry has said, here's what's required. Along with that, we have to have related instructions. Some of that can be where they get a little bit of it up front and then go to work for the employer. But when they start the registered apprenticeship program, whether they're getting a little bit of education up front and then going to work, they have to be tied to an employer. So there's a guarantee of employment from the start, and that's really what we're looking for, because for so many years we've spent so much money on education and continuing people through the education process with no guarantee of employment on the backside. And then employers are sitting here wanting this group of people education, saying, well, this is what I heard 5 years ago. Employers are saying, well, that's not what I need today. And so it's kind of, it's kind of all over the board. So we have employment, we start the related instruction along with the structured on-the-job training. Another critical component is of a registered apprenticeship program is rewards for skill gain, because employers want to start their people at a lower wage and see how they progress up, but they never show them what that progression is. And so therefore, people don't know what the path for growth is. And so if I'm stuck at a minimum wage job, am I going to stay there forever? Probably not. I'm searching for a better opportunity every day. If the employer shows them that there is a path for growth, which is another requirement of the registered apprenticeship program, then they're likely to keep that person a lot longer. At the end or the completion of the apprenticeship program, there is a national credential that's provided through the U.S. Department of Labor. So throughout the process, they could be getting different certifications, but at the end, they have this certification. That certification is critical to the job seeker, because then they can take it from Idaho to another state or from another state to Idaho. And that's another thing that we really looked at, is how can we attract people back to Idaho and help build that labor force. Right now, if somebody were trained in Idaho and went to Iowa, they could get a job. If someone were trained in Iowa and come to Idaho, guess what? They're going to start over again, because we hadn't recognized the value behind the registered apprenticeship program. So it's tremendous benefit for us to do this. Here's just some facts about the use of apprenticeships. It really does help with recruitment. It's been proven that 89% of the apprentice, are employed after completing the program. In our efforts, we're not just concentrating on the traditional trades. Our main focus is on technology, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and then a weird one that come out of left field was water, wastewater treatment. When we look at the different municipalities throughout the state, they are in huge need of water treatment facilitators. It took a bit of a conversation with the Idaho Rural Water Association. There were some obstacles initially in place. We were actually able to work through those obstacles just by having a conversation with the Water Users Association and the Idaho Bureau of Licensing. So, as you can see, we really want to make an impact on Idaho's economy. We don't want to just stick with the traditional jobs which are in construction, which do have those peaks and valleys. We want to get something that's a little bit more steady, something a little bit more focused, and something that has more, I guess, meat in the game and a financial incentive as well, not only to the apprentice but to the employer. These facts right here, I will let you know, there was a study commissioned by the U.S. Department of Commerce, and it was released in November of 2016, but that's where all of these facts come from. They did an excellent job in the study that was commissioned, and I thought it was a great article. I'd be happy to share that link with you guys if you want it, but it was a very good study, some real good companies that they took a look at, and really what the results were in the end. I want to cover just a few myths that we've actually noticed in people's understanding about apprenticeships. The first one is apprenticeships are only for the construction trade. That's not true. There's over 1,000 different occupations that are apprenticeable and recognized through the U.S. Department of Labor. Again, as I've told you in the previous slide, some of those are in IT, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and many other occupations for that matter. Myth number, let me get there. Myth number 2, apprenticeship's too expensive for my company. I can't afford to do it. Well, my response to that is you can't afford not to do it. because it really does benefit your bottom line. When a business brings on an apprentice, they're bringing them on at a lower rate than they would pay for a highly skilled person. So they're being really compensated for the time in training that individual. And then there's also financial incentives that are available to them. One of the things that we're really trying to do at Department of Labor is tie our WIOA funding to registered apprenticeships and on-the-job training, because that way we have a guarantee of employment at the end of the day, instead of just throwing our money at education in hopes that we get a job in the end. Myth number 3 is one size fits all. That's not true. As I've already told you, business really kind of drives the train. They're able to customize the program to fit their particular company. Even though industry has a certain standard, we can take that standard, plop it into a company, and they may want to add to that. They can also take away from it, maybe not as much as they want to, but we'll kind of work back and forth with them on that customization. It can be one-on-one or serve a specific industry. The 4th myth is businesses are stuck with underperforming individuals. That's not true. The employment decisions are made by the employer. If they don't like the person's not performing, they can discharge them just like anybody else. I mean, it's not, they're not stuck with a person just because it's a registered apprenticeship program. Again, here's some benefits to the apprentice itself. They get a paycheck from day one. They get hands-on training that goes hand in hand with their education. Amanda and I were talking before the presentation, and in today's workforce, you know, we hear employers say, oh, you know, today's workforce, they're lazy, they don't want to learn, you know, they're not committed. Well, you know, that's not true. What it is our youth today want to know why they're doing something. So if it's taking them 4 years of education to figure out why they're doing something, what's the likelihood that they're going to stay with that 4 years worth of education? It's not real likely that they're going to stay with that. We're with a registered apprenticeship program, it's going hand in hand. They're getting the education and they're finding out why I'm learning this. So it's really important to make that connection when we're sitting down and we're talking to the employer, but then also talking to the job seeker, because they need to see there's value for them built into this. The studies show that they view it as a career, not a job, and then again you get the nationally recognized credential at the end. Here are the steps to getting started, and here's where we're really helping out. The exploratory phase, again, will help find the standards for the employer. We'll help find the educational options that exist out there. Obviously, we want to use our community colleges. We want to use our community partners. But if it's not flexible enough to meet that employer's needs, we do have available options to us that we can reach out to. We're not in this journey alone right now. We're in a what they call a cohort of 6 other states. We are sharing information back and forth. The example that I shared with you about the medical assistant for St. Luke's, we got information from Alaska on the use of that one. And so, you know, we're really sharing information with other states, and it's been kind of a learning experience every time we have a call with another state. So the regional business specialist, 2 weeks ago, we had all of our regional business specialists and all of our community college partners in for a 3-day training. They walked out of there with a ton of information, and we're given the task to go back and start talking with employers. I've also had presentations to many organizations, starting with the AGC. I've done several chamber events. The land surveyors had a conference here last week, which I was a part of. And so every opportunity we have to share the story about Apprenticeship Idaho, we're taking advantage of that. We also help find the partners to bring business and education together. We help them build the standards, we help them get it registered, and then if they need help with the recruitment piece of it, we can also help with the recruitment piece of it. I've got a real short video here that I want to share with you. I think best describes what it is that we're trying to do with Apprenticeship Idaho.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then and let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes, and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. You take guts to be a first follower. You stand out. You brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. A tree is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. Over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers and equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
So I stand before you today as the lone nut, asking all of you who will be my first follower. This truly is a movement that will help Idaho's employers and Idaho citizens gain the employment that they need. What questions do you have?
What are the industries again? You said healthcare.
So the question is, what industries is it that we're involved in? There will be no industry excluded, but the ones we're concentrating on are healthcare, technology, advanced manufacturing, and then the water wastewater treatment. And I say no one will be excluded. I will give you an example. The first one we brought on board was out of Twin Falls, New View Glass. It's a glass company. He needed some glazers. We helped him develop the standards. We found the option for him. He signed on. We got Camping World, who had a place here in Meridian, a place in Idaho Falls. They said, okay, you know, here's what we'd like to do. We set up the standards for them. It's for an RV technician. We were now able to take that set of standards and get an employer up in northern Idaho who has an RV repair, and he's got the same set of standards, same schooling requirements. He just actually got his registered today. So we're trying to service all, but that's really our main focus.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we're out, you know, our ED professionals or BRE team meeting with a business and they say, I'm interested, what's the next step?
The next step would be to put them in contact with a regional business specialist. But I guess I would ask that if you guys are involved in the conversation and you're getting the conversation started, And if you can, please be a part of that conversation, to kind of help, I guess facilitate, that comfort with the employer, because it's very important, whoever really starts the conversation, that you remain a part of it if your schedule allows. But our regional business specialists are the ones who are helping make that connection, helping develop the standards, and helping walk that business through the process. But I think it's, I do think it's really important that you maintain, that relationship and communication throughout the process.
How long does it take from start to finish?
The quickest one we've had is a 48-hour turnaround. So I mean, it was very quick. I'd say the average, and a lot of it just depends upon the company. We could have it done within about a week. I'll take St. Luke's as an example. We started the conversation with them last week, and we introduced them to the educational component Monday of this week. So it was about a week time frame. We have found that the technology ones are probably going to take a little bit longer to build because of some of the requirements are very technical in nature. And so it may take us a few more meetings to kind of build through that process. But I would say average a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said the grant money went to the schools that are putting the programs together?
Yeah, so the way the grant money is really split up is Department of Labor only kept enough to cover my salary. CTE got a fairly good share of that grant, and that was divvied out to the 7 workforce training centers. Now, the 7 workforce training centers, or 6, I guess there is, yeah, 6. So what they're responsible for is if they do not have an educational component in place to meet the need of this registered apprenticeship program, then they will help us find that curriculum that exists. Because believe it or not, there's so much curriculum out there that money has been spent on, grants have been awarded, years and years and years of money spent. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars, and that curriculum's sitting out there somewhere, but we don't have access to it. The employers don't have access to it, but education has access to it. And so that's why we've told them they're responsible for helping us find that curriculum if it doesn't exist, because they have the resources in which to do that. And so we've pretty much funded a position for them to, to have somebody there to do that for us. Then we have Idaho Hospital Association, we have the Idaho Technology Council, and we have Tech Help, which we've also given money to again reach out to their associations. They're responsible for helping us establish 25 apprenticeships in their associations. So we tied a number of apprenticeships to the money. As we did with the workforce centers, we tied a specific number of apprenticeships they have to help us with to that money. So if they don't get us the apprenticeships, then, we're going to question before we give them the money. So it's not just, here you go, you got the money, go do something with it. There were actual numbers attached to it. So we felt very comfortable in that. And then one of the things that we also did was we reached out to P-Tech, which is up out of northern Idaho, and we used them to really help us reach down into the high schools, because there is a disconnect between the career and technical education system at the high school level to post-secondary, because most of the kids do not know of the opportunities outside the traditional trades, what's available to them past high school. So P-Tech has a very proven model of, reaching that population group. And so again, why should I go out and beat my head up against the wall? They've got the model, let them do it. And so we gave them some money as well.
For those who are on the phone and who may not be familiar with all the acronyms, what is P-Tech?
P-TECH is Pathways to Employment. Oh, Pathways to Employment. I cannot remember the rest of it. It's a program funded through J. Catherine Albertson's Foundation, and it is a youth program working with high school students. It was modeled after something out of New York, if I remember correctly, to show kids there is a career path after high school besides a 4-year college education. Were you able to find that, Amanda?
No, not yet.
PTECH.
ECH, okay.
Uh-huh. We'll get that for you. Good question, though. Thank you. I can't ever remember what it is. Other questions?
Pathways.
Early college high, so
Yeah, pathways.
technology, early college high.
Okay.
Right?
Pathways to early career high school.
There you go.
So that's mostly how students are finding out about it, is like through high school teachers or their community college teachers, or?
You know, right now, we haven't started a real big push to the job seeker side of it because we had to get our staff up to speed.
Right.
And so we just completed our staff side training 2 weeks ago. But as I was telling Amanda, what we've done with the St. Luke's opportunity is we've really tried to reach out to our network, like the Veterans Network that we have connections with, also Health and Welfare in their TANF program. I think it's Maximus who's doing their job placement. We've reached out to our database as far as the recruitment process is concerned, and then with the help of P-TECH, they're going to get it out to their network because they do have a greater network of that high school, component where we haven't built that just yet, so that's why I'm using them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more work to do in that arena, though, past what we've already done.
When did this start?
We actually, we got the money in November, but did not start until really January, pushing this out. Mm-hmm.
How is this, I guess, similar or different to like the U.S. DOL apprenticeship programs with like the electricians and plumbers?
It is the absolute same.
It's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
Expanding the career.
Yeah, so the question is, how is this different to the U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeship program? It is no different. But the problem that we've had in Idaho is there's one person with the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship to cover the entire state. And so he can't do it and build what it is that we need to build. And so that's where we come in to play with this initiative that we built with the Idaho Department of Labor, is to really push it forward. So he doesn't have to necessarily go out and do the marketing and everything else with the employer. We're doing that for him. Once we get the standards and everything built, it's still registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. So he's the one that's now doing the administrative duties, I guess, for us. And we're able to push more and grow it faster than what we were able to before.
It'll be the same thing, like certain levels, like you're paid
50%.
75%.
Yep, same thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is great because, like, our new BRE team, now that we're out meeting with businesses, the thing we hear from every single business is a talent issue and finding that skilled workforce. So this is great for us to go out and now market it and help you kind of spread the word, help our businesses.
Absolutely, and that's what that's what we really need is the more people that's out there spreading the word, the better it's going to be for for your efforts and what you're doing, because you're able to now provide a solution to that employer. I was just up in McCall over the past 2 days and met with several businesses up there, and that's exactly what we were talking about, is the workforce issue. We can't find local talent. Well, when you look at the unemployment rate in that area, it's sitting at about 6.2. So where are these people? They're there, but a lot of them are underskilled. So how do we skill them up as fast as we can? Because they're not going to drive from McCall to CWI 3 times a week. They're just not going to do it. So is there a way that we can remote access? Is there a way that we can find an online option for them? Absolutely we can. And so that's what we're really trying to do. And I was very excited about having those opportunities and those conversations, especially in rural Idaho, because I think we can make the biggest impact in those areas on those businesses and those citizens, you know, by providing other options than the traditional means that you've got to go sit in this seat to get your education. No, you don't. You know, there's a way we can help you. So.
You have another question online. Are the Idaho Skills Stack or badges still available?
Yes, they are. Very good question. That's why I do have Wendy Seacrest with CTE, who is actually my co-lead from the career and technical education side. We will be looking at especially the high school students that we're bringing out, and how we can take that badging system that they've developed and maybe take and give those youth that are going into a registered apprenticeship program a hand up in giving them credit for some of the high school education that they've got. What we plan on doing, and I didn't mention this in the presentation, is with that using the badging system, is we've developed what's called a school to registered apprenticeship program. So between their junior and senior year, a student can actually go to work for an employer. In most cases, the labor laws are, I don't want to say exempt, but waived in a way, as long as the student is in a school to registered apprenticeship program. So they have to be taking education in high school that's tied to the occupation that they're working in. So they can go to work in the summertime as between their junior and senior year. And there's one good example up north where this kid, he was a junior, went to work in the summer as a CNC operator, okay? And he's under the age of 18, okay? So he's out there, he's actually learning the education or learning the hands-on component with a mentor that's right there by his side. He's being paid during his summer break. He went back to school. He's now taking education in high school that ties directly to that occupation. He's able to work one night a week, I think for like 4 hours, and then he goes into work on Saturday for like 8 hours. So the employers kept him engaged through his senior year of high school. So when he graduates high school, he's already got some of the educational components, which is tied to the badges, and he's also got some of the experience and hours logged toward that registered apprenticeship program. So it's a real good opportunity using the models that CTE has already set up. And it's been a proven model in many other states. And so we chose to, again, partner with CTE and really utilize the resources that they have in place and just kind of build upon that.
Cool. I don't see any other questions. Anybody in here has any more questions? Well, thank you, John. That was incredibly informative. So for everybody still listening, we did record this again. So if you would like access to that, just let us know, and we'll make sure to send you the link. And thank you again, John.
Thank you.